Good evening, everybody. Wanted to give my reactions to the latest Mandalorian episode. This is chapter 10 of the Mandalorian saga called The Passenger. But in an ode to the old Chuck television series, I'm going to call this episode The Mandalorian versus the Filler episode. This is going to kind of be spoilery if there's anything that could really be called a spoil in this episode. But I'm going to give you the plot, what little there was. This was probably the most filler-ish episode of The Mandalorian ever. Nothing happens in it, really. Nothing. Our story doesn't move forward at all. Um, Things happen with almost no consequences. It's just, it wasn't a great episode. So the episode picks up where we left off with the Mandalorian leaving um, the uh, Great Dragon's carcass with the Sand People still rooting around inside, and he's heading back toward Mos Eisley. On the way, he gets ambushed by three people who we assume a couple of them are at least bounty hunters because they're actually looking for the child. A fight ensues, and as usual, he takes care of them pretty easily. Doesn't get hurt. Loses his speeder bike. Almost loses the baby. In a pretty horrific crash, actually. But that's what happens when you drive really fast and you're not paying attention to people who string ropes across rocks. Anyway, so he gets back to Mos Eisley and he goes to talk to his friend who's been watching the Razor Crest and basically says he canned out on that. She says she has another um, contact that might be able to find him more Mandalorians, but that first you would have to take her as a passenger to a new home of theirs. So he's introduced to this frog-like alien who has her spawn in a little container, and the trick to this is that he cannot travel in hyperspace because it'll affect the baby somehow, and it's very important to keep the baby safe. So he doesn't like it, but he does take the fare. This is the passenger, and they get on board the Razor Crest and start taking off, going slowly, where the child has decided to escape as usual and makes its way over and actually opens the container and eats a couple of the babies. Now they're like balls now. They look like those tea balls that are in drinks, Boca balls or whatever they're called. So I actually found this quite horrific because it's very clear in one spot that he probably uses the Force to communicate them. He puts his hand up against the side of the jar, as you would at a zoo, and all the little spores start moving toward his hand. Um, I didn't like that he eats these babies through the episode. Being a sentient being and over 50 years old, he would think he would know the difference between a humanoid frog person and a normal frog that's just hopping around. But that's neither here nor there. They are then intercepted by two X-Wings, one flown by Dave Filoni, same as he was in season one. In fact, it's the same pilot. He recognizes the Razor Crest, and he says that they need to make sure they have a transponder on board. The Mandalorian explains to him that he's a pre-Imperial ship, so he doesn't need it. They argue back that yes, he does. This is a new time, and he has to have one. Now, my question is they call the Razor Crest by name. So my question is if they already know the ship, they already know its pilot, they already know where it's been, is this the fact that do they even know? Is the Razor Crest the name of the ship or the type of the ship? Because it seemed to me it was the name of the ship. But he says that he'll help them out, and he'll go ahead and get that fixed as soon as he can. They say okay, and he says something very interesting. May the Force be with you. And they reply back, and with you. Now, I thought it was understood on this show that he doesn't understand what the Force is. He has a Jedi-like person with him, I mean, a Force user, but he doesn't understand how the Force works. He doesn't know what Jedi are, but understands, may the Force be with you. Now, it could be that it's become such a common greeting now after the fall of the Republic that he just says it like you'd say, hasta la vista or something like that. But I found it a weird niche in there that was just weird. So uh, they try and run away, and this is where we saw some of the stuff from the trailer. They get knocked down on an ice planet and fall through the ice into a giant cave system. The Razor Crest is hurt pretty badly. It's torn open on a side, um, and they can't get out. So he's trying to fix the ship. This frog lady wanders off into the frozen tundra and finds um, a spa. Finds a little hole in the ground that has hot water coming up in it where her and her babies can relax and get warm and rest. So they're doing that. Mandalorian comes and finds them. He brings the child along. This is where the episode gets just dumb. The child wanders away and immediately finds a whole bunch of eggs along the ground a la aliens and opens one up and eats the little spider thing that's inside it. Somehow, this activates all the other eggs, and they all start cracking open and crawling toward you in what is basically described as a combination between the spider scene from Harry Potter and the space spiders from Lost in Space. They attack them, they run away, there's a giant mom who comes after them. They fight it off as best they can. They get back to the ship. They seal themselves into the cockpit, and they don't know what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, there's just gunfire outside, and it's the rebellion who's come to save them. The two guys have found them, and how they got in there, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense how they found them. Doesn't need to, because the episode was already ending, and you didn't even know because nothing had ever happened. So he says, well, you know what? I'm going to give up the bounty on those three guys I delivered to you on your prison barge if you help me out. And the rebellion guys are like, whatever, get in their X-Wings and fly away. Now, this is something from season 1 that bugged me. And now that it's happened again in season 2, it bugs me even more. What in the hell is the rebellion now? They call themselves the New Republic, but the first time we were introduced to the New Republic, it was 3 X-Wings that blew up an entire space station full of people in order to kill one prisoner, committing mass murder, a war crime if the Empire had done it, and they just flew away like it was nothing. Now they basically strand the Mandalorian and the frog lady, her babies, and the child on this ice planet to die. Well, of course, the Mandalorian magically fixes the ship, and they fly away, and that's where we saw from the trailer where the Razor Crest was all broken up, and the door was open, and all that. And they limp their way to the planet where he's supposed to drop off the frog lady. And that's where the episode ends. Nothing really happened. We didn't get anywhere. None of the quest to return the child didn't move forward. All we did is it's a fetch quest. Nothing happened. It was a side quest that you didn't need to do, and he did it anyway, and it cost him, like a lot of side quests to do in games. But overall, I mean, the effects were really nice, and the child was great as always, but really this was a super filler episode that just, hopefully next week there's something better, because this was just, this wasn't good. Um, it was almost boring, which I don't ever want in Star Wars again, especially after such a great episode last week. This is a huge, huge downturn. So hopefully next week will be better, and I'll get back with another review for that next week. Until then, have a great weekend. I'll probably watch it one or two more times just to make sure I got it. Maybe I missed something or I was too too ready for that to be a decent episode and I just didn't give it a good chance. So I'll talk to y'all later. See ya.